Welcome to my channel. I'm Scott, and in this video I am going to walk you through the process of valuing Golden Ocean stock by analyzing their financial statements and dissecting their financial ratios so we can determine if it's a buy or a sell. Golden Ocean is a Norwegian-based dry bulk shipping company. It was created as a demerged part of Frontline in 2004. Their total fleet consists of 94 vessels and new buildings, with a total capacity of 13.4 million deadweight tons. Of the 94 vessels, they own 78 vessels, 48 Capesize, 28 Panamax, and 2 Ultramax. It also has 8 Capesize vessels on long-term leases with profit-sharing agreements, 1 Ultramax, and 7 Kamsarmax vessels on order. The company is headquartered in Bermuda and was founded in 2004. The ticker trades on the Nasdaq, Deutsche Börse, Oslo, and London Stock Exchange. Let's get started with the model. This is a mid-cap company, 2.8 billion market cap. They're trading at $14 a share, and they have 200 million shares outstanding. Let's look at their financials. The way you value a company is you estimate the free cash flows into the future, and then you discount those numbers back to today's value. That's what we're doing in this video. And free cash flow is cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures. They only had 28 million of free cash flow in 2018. Then it's been pretty consistent after that, around $115 million a year. Net income is the profit or loss on the income statement. It's revenue minus expenses. That was negative in 2020, a big positive in 2021. Revenue is the sales for the company, and that more than doubled from 2020 to 2021, their biggest year yet. This is the company's income statement up through 2021. The top line is the revenue, the sales. Below that is the cost of revenue. These are all the expenses directly related to generating the revenue. Revenue minus cost of revenue gives you your gross profit, and that's really high in the trailing 12 months at over $500 million. That's more than a 10x jump from 2020. Below that is our operating expenses. These are all the expenses not directly related to generating the revenue. Gross profit minus operating expenses gives you your operating income. And look how high their operating income is compared to prior years. Their margins are so much higher in 2021 compared to any other year. The way you calculate operating margin, it's operating income over revenue. They pay 37 million of interest on their debt, which is half of 2018's number. They pay 2.7 million in financing costs. Then you have other income and expenses. These are all the gains or losses not part of the company's core operations. Your pre-tax income, they don't pay much in taxes. And the bottom line of the income statement is your net income, which was negative in 2020, mainly due to this large asset impairment, but positive in the other years. The chart we were just looking at is from Yahoo Finance, and their financials only go up to 12/31/21. But the company did release their first quarter financials. This is the first quarter of 2022 compared to the fourth quarter of 2021 compared to the first quarter of 2021. Their revenue is down a lot from last quarter. It was 382 million, now it's 265 million, but it's up a lot from the first quarter of 2021. Their operating expenses are also high in the first quarter, 162 million, compared to the fourth quarter of 176 million. It's obviously lower on a nominal basis, but a lot higher as a percent of revenue, because revenue is a lot lower. But they do have positive operating income, 100 million, which is up almost 5 times from the first quarter of 2021. Their net income is 125 million, down from 200 million, but up from 24 million. Their earnings per share are 63 cents, up a lot from the first quarter of 2021, but down a bit from the fourth quarter of 2021. This is the company's statement of cash flows. The top line is operating cash flow. That's how much cash the company generates from its operational business. Then you have capital expenditures, investments in property, plant, and equipment. When they purchase a vessel, the cost of that vessel goes into CapEx and is carried on the balance sheet and depreciated over its useful life. Operating cash flow minus CapEx gives you your free cash flow. They are cash flow positive each year. That's why they pay such a nice dividend. They did add a lot of stock in 2021, 350 million. When a company adds common stock, it increases the shares outstanding. It makes your shares less valuable. And they're doing a good job paying down debt. They paid down debt in 2021, 2020, and 2019. They added about 23 million of debt in 2018. Let's look at the capital structure. 1.9 billion of equity, 1.4 billion of debt. They're 58% equity, 42% debt. And I gave them the middle whack on Finbox, 9%, and that's a discount rate we're going to apply to the future cash flows. We estimated 4 years of future free cash flows. We also estimated a terminal value, which is all cash flows past year 4, that's 1.9 billion. We discounted those numbers back to today using the weighted average cost of capital. We get a value of the company of $1.7 billion. We divide that by 200 million shares, and we get a calculated stock price of $8.48. They're trading at $13.72, so they're trading at a 62% premium. It's a sell according to the model. Their revenue target for 2024 is $904 million. For 2023, it's $779 million. For 2022, it's $952 million. And I continue this trend into 2025, and I got $1 billion. That's how I got their future revenue estimates. They convert on average 12% of their revenue into free cash flow, so I multiplied their future revenue estimates by 12%. That's how I got their future free cash flows. The website Simply Wall Street is a lot higher than me. They're at 33.82. They're saying the stock is 59.4% undervalued. 3 analysts priced this stock, and the average price target is 19.38. The low price is $17.15 and the high price is $23. This is where the stock has been trading the last 5 years. So it looks like about a month ago it was trading at its all-time high, close to $16. It is down a little bit since then, but it's a lot higher than it was the past few years. You can see they cut their dividend when COVID came, I guess to conserve cash, but they brought it back in the middle of 2021. The ticker BDRY is a dry bulk shipping ETF, and in the past 5 years it's up only 2%, while this stock is up 150%. They were tracking each other really closely for a long time. Then in the beginning of 2022, this stock just took off. Since shipping rates are so high, you could check the Baltic Dry Index if you want to track shipping rates. The higher the shipping rates, the more money this company makes and the bigger the dividend they're going to pay out. And they're paying a great dividend, 14.5%. Their last dividend payment was 50 cents. Before that it was 90 cents. Before that it was 85. And you could see they used to pay a 10-cent dividend, a 3-cent dividend, a 5-cent dividend. Although in 2014 it looks like they were making a lot of money. They paid a $1 dividend. But they did acquire a lot of vessels. They had a lot of CapEx in 2021. That's why their dividend over free cash flow looks so high at 347%. Because I don't think it's that likely they're going to be investing that heavily into new vessels this year and next. At least in relation to how much they invested in 2021. And you can see their dividend yield is all over the place. It was about 16% back in 2015, then dropped to about 5%, and then the yield shot way up to almost 35%. Because the stock price was still fairly low when they raised their dividend. And the forecast is for the yield to be 11% by 2024, which is still a great yield. It's really difficult to consistently generate a profit in the shipping industry. It's probably even harder than the airline industry. You can go years of making no money. And when that happens, your stock price goes down a lot, below $1. So shipping companies do reverse stock splits. They did a 1-for-5 reverse stock split in 2016, so they can raise their stock price above $1 and not get delisted. They have a beta of 1.28, so the stock is a little more volatile than the market. It's gone up 24% in the past 52 weeks, while the S&P is down 5%. The 52-week low is 8, the high is 16. And the stock is trading above its 50-day and 200-day moving average. 5 million shares are traded each day on this stock. Of the 200 million shares outstanding, 122 million are on float. 27% are held by institutions and 2.5% of the shares are shorted. If you invested $10,000 into this company 10 years ago, you would have had $20,000 after 2 years. But if you're still holding on, you'd be at $6,300 today. That's a 37% loss. A 4.5% annual loss. 40% of the company is held by the general public, 38% by private companies, 21% by institutions, and 0.6% by public companies. Their employee count has gone up a little bit the past few years. They only have 37 people on staff. Here are the top 10 largest shareholders. Greenwich Holdings owns 39% of the company, then Goldman Sachs, Renaissance Technology, Fidelity, Acadian, Russell Investment, the large shipping company Frontline. Let's look at their financial ratios. They have an amazing PE of 5.2. That's stock price over earnings per share. Much better than a market median and market average. Price to sales of 2.3. Price to book of 1.4. And a price to free cash flow of 23.8. Their return on invested capital is 13%. The way you calculate that, you take their operating income, you multiply that by 1 minus the tax rate, and then you divide that number by the equity plus the net debt. Net debt is debt minus cash. They can cover their interest payments 14 times. They have a high ROE of 27%, much higher than a market median and average. They have a good current ratio of 1.5, that's current assets over current liabilities, and a quick ratio of 1.3, that's current assets minus inventory over current liabilities. They generated $115 million of free cash flow in 2021. They have $121 million of working capital, and they paid out $400 million of dividend payments. So it looks like they may be short. They may have to add some debt or equity to get through the next 12 months. The best way to look at ratios is to compare them to companies in the same industry. There are 34 companies in the same industry as Golden, and if Golden has a number in red, they're worse than the average. If they have a number in blue, they're better than the average. They spend a lot more than average in CapEx. They have a better debt to equity ratio than average. They pay a really high dividend payment. The only companies that pay higher are Zim and Starbulk. They didn't generate a lot of free cash flow. That's mainly because they had such high CapEx. They're the 4th largest company in this industry. Their price to book is average. They have a better price to earnings than average. Their price to free cash flow is worse than average, and their price to sales is worse than average. They generate more revenue than the average company. Their revenue is growing at 35%, which is more than double average. They have a good ROA and ROE. So to summarize, I have them trading at a 62% premium. And if you own this stock for the past year or two, I'm sure you're really happy cashing those dividend checks. But this is a really volatile industry, because if you time it wrong, you could be in the red for many, many years. I rank their free cash flows 5 out of 10, their revenue 7 out of 10, and their ratio 7 out of 10. So let me know what you think. Give this video a like, subscribe, or comment below. Also, if you'd like to get a custom valuation, you can become a member by clicking on the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.